Good morning, everyone. My name's Micki. Welcome to Gentle Yoga in my home studio. Sorry, I have this drum in the background, which we found out is not working on Zoom. So I'm trying to get my husband to make some recordings for you. So for gentle yoga, it'd be good if we had some props. I didn't get my props out yet. So I have two blocks, which I love to use. A strap could be nice, and a blanket of some sort, and then maybe a pillow or a bolster. So let's go ahead and start out. I love to start out in a restorative shape on the back because I find that's a really nice way to tune in. And one of my favorite things to do with the blanket is to take the edge and roll it up a little bit to make a nice little lift for underneath the heart. So you could come to lying down in any position that feels good for you. If this roll underneath the back isn't working for you, you don't have to use that. But I like to make sure that it's just right underneath the heart center. For me, that feels so good. And then you can maybe cactus your arms if your arms reach the floor. Here's another way you could use blocks. You could even, if your arms feel like it's too much strain to reach the floor, you could use blocks or pillows underneath the arms here. Or another option would be to bring your hands onto your belly and rest them there. And then one option with the legs is to tent the knees together or bring the soles of the feet together, open the knees up wide. So just allow yourself to settle in. If you're using these butterfly legs, another option would be to slide those blocks right underneath your knees for a little bit of support. So whatever works best for you, just allow yourself a moment to settle in. You might take some sighs out through the mouth. Allowing yourself to fully relax into the earth. For a moment, you might just imagine your body has like a cell phone battery. Can you assess where your personal battery is at today? And then allow yourself this moment to recharge, literally thinking of yourself plugging into the earth, feeling the earth rise to support you, allowing yourself to settle in. At this moment, you might have a specific intention for your practice, something that helped inspire you to come to class. And so for today's theme, if you'd like, you could also use this as an intention. So the theme for today's class is Brahmacharya, which means non-excess. This is the fourth yama. There are 5 yamas. These are yoga's ethical practices, how yoga recommends that we best interact with the world. And then the niyamas, there are 5 of them, are the ways in which we can best interact with ourselves. So we'll be exploring those in later classes. So I just have a short passage from the book, The Yamas and the Niyamas by Deborah Adele. And my favorite quote about Brahmacharya is at the end of the chapter. She says, Brahmacharya reminds us that we aren't embodied in this form to feel dead, but to feel alive. We aren't embodied to snuff out our vitality and passion through excess, but to bring it to full expression. Howard Thurman understood the importance of our passion to the world when he said, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. You can allow those words to just float past you. Imagine they're like floating clouds overhead. And then pick whatever you'd like to be your intention today and imagine it as a glowing jewel. It might have a certain color to it. And then allow that glowing jewel to plant itself at your heart center. As you inhale, imagine it glows brighter. And as you exhale, it can fade and dim. With each inhale, you might imagine that glow from your heart starting to charge up with the support of the earth. You might imagine the glow as expanding out of your skin. And notice the beams of light radiating out into the universe. With your next inhale, we'll close the knees up towards the sky if they aren't already. And then you can either slide the blanket out of the way, or if it's feeling good there, you can leave it right where it is. Let's walk the feet as wide as the mat and then allow the knees to gently float over to the left. You might have that right knee right below your left foot. So your legs are in kind of a pinwheel shape. Maybe you float your gaze over towards the right. And then just allow yourself to pause here for a few rounds of breath. Whenever you feel ready, you can float the knees back up to the sky and then allow them to cascade over to the right. Maybe turn your gaze over to the left. Just allowing yourself a moment to settle in on this side. If you would like to make this shape more active, you could always just continue to windshield wiper a little side to side after each round of breath. Gently shaking your head no. So it's whatever feels good to you, either moving at the pace of your own breath or maybe staying for a few rounds of breath. Take one more nice deep breath on each side, and then we'll roll over to the left side. You can press yourself up into a seat, and then let's move the blanket out of the way. I'm going to set mine behind my mat to sit on later. And then you can bring your knees to point up towards the sky, extend your arms out long in front of you, and then start to roll onto your back. You might want your strap and your blocks handy too. So let's actually bring those off to the side. So reaching your hands out, you can start to lower yourself down. And then when you come back onto your back, you might use your strap to wrap it around your shins, or you can use just your arms on your knees. And we'll start to draw a few circles with the knees, allowing for a gentle massage on the low back. When you feel complete in this direction, go ahead and reverse the direction of your knee circles. Tuning into your low back, you can send the low back gratitude for all it does to support you. And then we'll release the strap from around your knees, and you can go ahead and soften your hands down to the mat around 45 degrees from the body. On the next exhale, you can hover the knees over to the right. And then we'll inhale the knees back up to center. Exhale, hover them over to the left. Go ahead and oscillate like this, a little side to side. You can find a bit of core engagement here. The next time your knees fall over to the left, go ahead and land them there. You can flip your palms so they're facing up and extend your arms out into a letter T shape. Take a nice deep breath here. Relax into your twist, maybe sending your gaze over towards your right hand. Now I'm going to give you some options for movement. You can always stay in your twist, and then you can always do this with or without the props. So if you have blocks, if you don't have blocks, how about you can leave your knees stacked and then just roll onto your left side, and you can use your bicep here as a pillow for your head. So you're stretching your arm long overhead. Or if you do have two blocks, you might use a block for a pillow underneath the temple. And then you can extend this twist a little bit more by reaching your bottom leg long, bringing the block or a bolster out in front, and setting your knee on that block. And then we're going to bring the hands together to touch. So the palms are stacked. Once you find yourself set up in this position, we're going to find a little bit of movement. So start to reach your top fingertips long. So your right fingers are reaching past your left. You're kind of rolling a little bit onto your left side. And then on your inhale, you can sweep the arm open into your twist. And this time, because you're a little bit propped up, your arm is probably not going to come onto the ground. That's okay. And go ahead and inhale to come back across the body, reaching the arm past the fingertips. And then inhale to open it up. Exhale, come back through center. Inhale, slide the arm open. Go ahead and take one more round like this. And then we'll stack the palms. Next, you're going to inhale the arm up and overhead. So drawing a circle above the head. And then you can bring that arm into a cactus shape, just opening through the chest. Exhale. We'll swivel the arm back up and overhead, allowing the palms to touch. So inhale, sweep the arm up and over, cactus the arm. Exhale, bring it back for the palms to touch. And let's try that 2 more times on this side. One more time at your own pace. Take one more nice deep breath here, and then you can move that block from underneath your knee. You can still use the other block underneath your head, and we'll stack the knees, and we're going to do a little bit to strengthen the glutes. So gluing the heels together, you can bring your right hand out in front or onto your hip. And we'll start to lift and lower the knee for clamshells. Follow the pace of your own breath. Go ahead and take a few more nice deep breaths like this. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to turn this into another variation of a twist. I'm actually going to release the block. Well, maybe the block underneath the head. That'll work actually. So we're going to slide the knees down so that the knees are now parallel with the body and your feet are kicked back at 90 degrees. Then you can lift this top knee up, allow it to float down to the mat or a block. And then you can start to open the chest. So this could be your twist right here. This is called cat chasing its tail. You might extend that right hand down and maybe you can reach for your left foot that's kicked back. That would be totally optional and it might provide a deeper sensation for your kind of a a quad stretch for your left leg. Take another nice deep breath here, softening the right shoulder back. It's not going to touch the ground, but you can allow it to sink back towards the ground. And then we'll release the bottom foot and you can roll onto your back. I'm just going to do a little breakdancing move. So I'll switch sides. So come onto your back. And then once more, you can hug your knees into your chest, either with the strap around your shins or your hands behind your thighs. Maybe you reach your nose up towards your knees, stretching through your upper back. And then go ahead and release your hands down to your sides. And we're going to float the knees side to side. So you can float them over to the right to hover. Inhale them back to center. Exhale, float them over to the left. And you can continue side to side like this. If you'd like to make this a little bit more challenging, as you float the knees to the left, you might kick the right leg long, or maybe you want to kick both legs long. Inhale the knees back to center. Exhale to the other side. Option to kick one or both legs long. Just a few more side to side. The next time your knees land over to the right this time, let's land the knees and come into our gentle twist. So with the knees stacked, you could spread the arms side to side. And then you're always welcome to stay at any place along this journey, remembering that each pose is infinite. And so you might just once more assess, where's your personal battery at? Would it feel more nourishing to lay in a twist than to find some movements? So we're going to set up for those spinal twist movements with the blocks, perhaps. So either your bicep underneath your head or a block underneath your head. And then you can leave the knees stacked, or maybe you want to extend the bottom leg long, bring your left knee onto a block. And then we'll roll entirely onto the right side. And you can bring your right hand over, your top hand, your left hand over to reach towards your right hand. And you might reach the fingertips past, rolling a little more onto your right side. And then we'll inhale, glide the arm across the chest and just reach it behind you. Go ahead and take 2 more rounds like this. Following the pace of your own breath. And then we're going to get ready for those half circles. So stacking your palms, you can inhale to sweep your left arm up and overhead, and then start to bend into the elbow, cactusing the arm, opening the chest. Exhale, bring the hand back to touch. And then sweep that semicircle overhead. Go ahead and follow the pace of your own breath, taking 2 more rounds like this. And then when you're ready, we'll remove that bottom block. You can stack the knees this time out in front. We're going to take some of those clamshells. So gluing the heels together, we'll start to inhale to lift the knee, exhale to lower. And hopefully you feel some good engagement in the glutes. When we strengthen our glutes, this can help support our knees, our ankles when we walk. So just send some gratitude down into the glutes. Some nice deep breaths, strengthening. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then whenever you feel complete on this side, we'll stop that movement, and then you can slide the knees down. So now they're parallel with the body, kicking the feet back to 90 degrees. Go ahead and lift and lower that left knee up and over, and maybe it reaches the ground, or you can pat it with a pillow or a knee or your knee. And then start to open through the chest. So you're leaning your left shoulder back. And you might kick that bottom foot, the right foot, up and behind you. And maybe you reach for it with your hand and grasp hold of the foot. That's just an option. A lot of options here to explore. So allow yourself to settle in, soften. Notice what adjustments might feel good. Noticing I'd rather bring my knee all the way to the ground. Opening that right shoulder, letting it sink back towards the ground. And softening into your twist. Take a nice deep breath here. And then we'll release the foot. And you can either press yourself up into a seat. We'll all be meeting up at a seat. Or you can come onto your back and maybe you draw your knees in towards your chest and take a few rounds rocking and rolling up and down the length of the spine. Whenever you're ready, you can rock up into a seat and then plant your feet on the mat. Maybe you take a moment to just play around with boat pose. So your knees are up towards the sky. You can reach the hands out, lift the heart, maybe sink back a little bit to engage the core. Or you can bring the hands behind the thighs and you might play around with lifting one leg at a time, 2 legs, at a time. So find whichever version of boat feels good to you. And then when you're ready, we'll roll all the way up into a seat. And you can use maybe a blanket to pad underneath the sit bones or a pillow or a block. And let's come into a cross-legged position. So find a comfortable seat. Take a moment once you arrive in your seat to close down your eyes or soften your gaze, allowing your shoulders to melt away from your ears. Tune into your breath and into that glowing jewel at your heart. With your inhale breath, allow the glow to fill the body, radiating out of the skin. And with the exhale breath, you can allow it to soften and dim. On your next inhale, go ahead and roll your shoulders up towards your ears. Exhale to allow them to roll down the back. Just take a few rounds of rolling out the shoulders, following the pace of your own breath. Maybe it would feel good to toggle one shoulder at a time. And then we're going to get ready to reverse the direction of those shoulder rolls. So start with the toggle, bringing one shoulder up from behind and down around in front. And then we'll sync up the movement so you can draw the shoulder blades to kiss at your back. Inhale them up towards the ears. Exhale, allow them to roll down in front. Just massaging this area of the body. This is where I carry a lot of my tension, is in my upper back and shoulders. And so another thing I like to do is roll them out with tennis balls. Maybe we'll have time later to do that, but just as a suggestion. When you're ready, we'll come back to stillness. We're going to get ready to come into hands and knees next. But if you don't want to be in hands and knees, remember you can always stay seated or even seated in a chair for cat-cow. So you could plant your palms on your knees. Inhale to lift your chest forward, lifting your heart. Exhale to round into cat. So feel free to do that either seated or on hands and knees. You could use that blanket underneath the knees to pad the knees. And I'm just going to move my blocks up front. Another thing I like to do sometimes on hands and knees when I have blocks, if I don't want to be on the wrists, is to stack blocks underneath the forearms. And this almost gets you to a tabletop position if you use the medium setting of the block. So take a few rounds of breath in cat-cow, inhaling to drop the belly, exhaling to round into the spine. Go ahead and move at the pace of your own breath. After a few rounds, you might explore drawing a circle with the belly button. You might move slowly, feeling that articulation in your spine. And taking a moment to really appreciate and marvel at the design. of your amazing spine, how intricate, appreciating all of the different directions it can move, and then allowing yourself to switch directions if you've been drawing a circle with the spine. Take one more nice deep breath wherever you're at. And then we'll meet up in a neutral spine, and you can start to draw your belly up a little bit towards your spine. And then on your next exhale breath, turn your gaze over your left shoulder, bending your left hip towards your left shoulder. Inhale back to center and exhale to switch sides. Go ahead and take one more round, wagging your tail to each side. And then we're going to get ready to find child's pose or downward facing dog. So just take a moment to assess what would feel good for you and your body. And sometimes it's really nice to take a supported child's pose. So I have this big bolster, but you could also use a pillow. So you're going to bring your big toes to touch, open your knees wide. And if you're going to use a bolster for support, you might rest one cheek coming into a child's pose, allowing your torso to rest either on the support of the prop or down onto the earth. You might walk your hands out in front. Take a moment to tune into your breath. And if you're resting one cheek on the bolster, you can lift your head and turn the opposite cheek. Take one more nice deep breath here. And then when you're ready, we'll press back up into hands and knees. And from here, we're going to come into thread the needle. Now, I remember for those people who are maybe not on hands and knees, this is the same exact pose. So if you were seated, you could bring your arm across your chest and pull your arm with the opposite hand. So you're getting a chest or a stretch along your shoulder. So if you were wanting a variation for thread the needle, but we'll keep the knees, I like to keep the knees wide. So you're basically coming up from your child's pose with your wide knees. And then you can take your right hand and thread it underneath the body so that you're coming to rest on your shoulder. You're allowing your temple to rest. And you can use the support of your left hand to keep you propped up. Take some nice deep breaths in whichever version of thread the needle, either seated or on the ground. And then when you're ready to unwind, we'll be finding the other side. So you can inhale to press back up to your hands and knees. And then we'll thread the left arm underneath the right. Allow the left temple to rest. Notice where you can soften your effort. And balance it with your ease. Take one more nice deep breath there. And then we'll come back to hands and knees. We're going to get ready to stretch through the calf. So you can come onto your forearms to give your wrists a little break and extend your left leg back, tucking your toes under, pressing the heel towards the mat. Imagine your breath like the wave of an ocean, rinsing down the back of your leg. We'll take one more nice deep breath here. And then you can switch sides, bringing the left knee back underneath the hip, extending the right leg back, tucking the toes under, pressing the heel towards the mat. Imagine the breath like the wave of an ocean, extending down the back of the leg. And then we have the option from here to just lower that right knee and then bring the left knee back. And now you're in a forearm plank. So you can stay in this forearm plank on the knees, or you might tuck one or both toes under and lift the knees, or maybe just lift one knee at a time. You might find a little bit of tremble here as you strengthen through your core. And then whenever you feel ready, go ahead and lower your belly down to the mat. Untuck your toes. And then you can press your elbows underneath your shoulders, press your palms down, and start to lift your heart through for Sphinx Pose. A little back bend here. Take a nice deep breath, and then when you're ready, you can soften all of your effort, stacking your palms, bringing your forehead to the back of your hands, softening your neck. Allow yourself a moment in this crocodile pose. Just relax all of your effort. Soften your glutes. Once more, imagine your cell phone battery, your personal cell phone battery. Notice where you're at. How much effort do you want to exert versus how much rest can you allow yourself? Coming into this idea of balancing our effort and our ease. Sthira and Sukha. When you're ready, we'll bring the arms behind us and you can turn your gaze to the left. Allow the right temple to rest. If it's hard for your temple to reach the mat, which it is for me, I like to tuck my toes under and just gently glide your body forward to make a little more space to rest your temple. And then you can untuck the toes, plant the mat, the feet, the tops of the feet back on the mat. And then we'll take a nice deep breath here. Exhale all of your breath. And then on your next inhale, you can lift the head, lift the chest, lift the feet and the arms to come into a locust shape. Take a nice deep breath using the strength of your spine and your back and balancing on the belly. Take one more nice deep breath, and then you can turn your gaze to the right. Soften your left ear towards the mat. Soften all of your effort. Relax your glutes. And then on your next inhale, you can bring your arms up so that your palms are right underneath your shoulders or a little back from there. And then we'll tuck the toes under and you can press up into tabletop. And then maybe you want to find a downward dog. We're going to be coming up into standing next. So if you'd like to take a downward facing dog and you have blocks, you might use the blocks underneath your hands. And I like to make sure they're not going to slip anywhere and that your heel of the hand is right on the edge of the block. So you can tuck the toes under, lift the hips up and back. Take a moment to walk out your dog, pedaling your heels, maybe sashaying your hips a little side to side. And then let's go ahead and walk our feet towards our hands or your hands towards your feet. And I'm moving my blocks to the high setting now to come up into a stilted tabletop position. On the next exhale, lower your torso down into a forward fold. And then we'll inhale, press into your shins or the blocks to lift up halfway. Exhale to forward fold. Inhale, press into halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And then on your next inhale, bend into your knees a little bit. Sink your hips back like you were going to find a chair to sit into. And then we'll inhale to lift the heart to come into Utkatasana, chair pose or fierce pose. You can bring your hands to your heart center, to your hips, or you might float your arms up past your ears. On the next inhale, let's rise through center. Exhale, bring your hands to your heart center. From standing, we're going to come into warrior one. So let's actually bring our blocks back up to the front of the mat. We'll inhale to circle sweep our arms up and overhead. Exhale to swan dive them forward into your forward fold. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold, and then you can step your right foot back into a lunge. So you can leave your heel lifted. That's actually going to be crescent moon lunge, Anjane Asana. With the heel lifted, it's going to be a little bit more challenging with balance. Or you can lower that back heel to come into warrior one. So choose what option seems like it would work best for you today. And then when you're ready, use the strength of your core to inhale to lift you upright, either bringing your hands to meet at heart center or lifting your arms up towards the sky. Take a nice deep breath wherever you land. And then with your next exhale, we'll float the hands back down to the ground or to blocks. And then if you have blocks, you might step them a little bit forward. We're going to just play around with balance coming into warrior three. So if your heel was down on the ground, you can lift the heel now. So your back heel is lifted up. And then we're going to bring the weight of our body to be supported by the left leg. So keep a little micro bend in that left knee. And we'll step up our weight to the left leg, kicking the right heel back behind you. And then on your next exhale, you can lower that foot down. Exhale into forward fold. We'll inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And then one more chair. So you're going to sink your hips back, bending into the knees. Bring your hands to your hips or your heart center. And you can lift your torso coming into chair, either with the hands at the heart, or maybe you reach your arms past your ears. Take a nice deep breath. And then on your next inhale, we'll rise through center. Exhale, bring the hands to the heart center. And then you can release your hands, softening into your mountain pose, maybe closing down the eyes. Feel your feet rooting down into the earth. Then we're going to get ready for the other side. So we'll inhale to reach the arms up and overhead. Exhale to swan dive forward. Inhale for halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And then you can plant your palms, either bring them to your hips or onto blocks, and we'll step that left foot back this time. So either you want to challenge yourself with your balance coming into either crescent moon or warrior one. So you'll either leave the heel lifted, or you can spin that heel down for a little bit more support. From here, wherever you decide, you can bring your hands to your hips, float your torso up to find balance. Either invite your hands to meet at your heart center, or you might float them up past your ears. Take another nice deep breath, floating the shoulders away from the ears. And then we'll exhale, return the hands to the blocks. You can come up onto the heel or the ball of your toe now, lifting the heel. And just an option to float through to warrior three. So you might walk your blocks out in front or bring your hands to your hips. And then we'll step our weight into our right leg, kick the left heel back for Virabhadrasana 3, warrior 3. Take a nice deep breath here. And then on your next exhale, you can lower the foot down. Now I want to give you the option of a yogi squat, Asana. So you can walk your feet as wide as your mat and bring your toes so they're off of the mat onto the floor. And your heels are on your mat. If you find that when you come into a deep squat, your heels want to lift, you could also bring a blanket roll underneath the heels. Try that. So with your blocks underneath your hands, you can start to lower your hips. At any point, you might stop. So if you come into the squat and you don't want to go further, that's okay. You're actually building a lot of strength here, especially in your quads. But if you'd like to come all the way down, you could bring your hands to the blocks or to the mat and maybe lower your hips all the way down. You could also slide a block underneath your seat for a supported squat. Maybe you invite your hands to meet at your heart center. And you could try and find a little twist here. So you might open your right hand out to the right, pressing the arm into the inner thigh. And then maybe you reach your left hand up and back. Exhale, bring your hands back to your heart center. And then we'll open that left palm, press the arm into the inner thigh, and then maybe you inhale to reach the right hand up and back. Take a nice deep breath here. Then we'll meet back up in center. You can press your palms into the earth or onto blocks. And we'll lift the hips to come into a forward fold. We're going to be making our way onto our back. So if you want to get there on your own, you can. Or you can follow me through downward facing dog. I'm going to use the blocks for down dog. And then you can lower down. Maybe you allow a moment for your knees to hover, finding a little tremble, strength building here. And then softly land your knees. You can walk the knees forward. And then come to roll onto your back, hugging your knees into your chest. See if there are any last shapes you'd like to take before your final rest. And for your final resting pose, it can be hard on the low back to extend the legs long like this in corpse pose. So another option would be where we started the beginning of class, with the knees tented together, the feet as wide as your mat, maybe your hands on your belly coming into constructive rest pose. One final shape could be figure four. This is actually very similar to pigeon. So if, like I mentioned, there was any last shapes that you wanted to take before your final rest, maybe one of them could be figure four pose, bringing the ankle over the thigh, stretching a little bit through the outer hip and glutes. Perhaps drawing the shape into the body, reaching the hands or a strap behind the thigh. So I'm going to give you that option of exploring any last shapes now. And then when the time feels right, making your way into corpse pose, Shavasana. If you're coming into Shavasana, you could allow the eyelids to close. Allow them to smooth out. Soften your forehead. Relax the hinge of your jaw. Notice for a moment this unique impression that your body is making on the earth. Just like your thumbprint. There's no other impression or mark anyone could make that is exactly like yours. Take a moment to appreciate your uniqueness. And then take a moment to revisit your heart center. And that glowing seed of intention that you set. We'll come back to this idea of Brahmacharya, and you can just allow these words to float past you like clouds overhead. Imagining any that might serve you can just softly rain down, dripping into your body, allowing them to be saved for later. The fourth jewel, Brahmacharya, literally means walking with God and invites us into an awareness of the sacredness of all of life. This guideline is a call to leave greed and excess behind and walk in this world with wonder and awe, practicing non-excess, attending to each moment as holy. You can start to deepen your breath, bringing your awareness back into your heart center, noticing that beautiful intention that you set. You might observe if it's changed colors. Once more, assess your own personal battery. That can help to inform the rest of your day. What actions feel appropriate for you? Of course, you're always welcome to linger longer in your final resting pose, Shavasana, but if you'd like to reawaken the body, you can start to bring some movement into your fingers, into your toes, gently rotating your wrists and your ankles. Maybe you want to find a long body stretch, reaching your fingertips overhead. And then feel free to roll onto one side, finding a fetal position, allowing your head to rest on the pillow of your bicep. Taking a few more rounds of breath there. And then maybe pressing yourself up into a seat when you're ready. You can invite your hands to meet at your heart center, allowing your head to gently bow towards the wisdom of your loving heart. Such an honor and a privilege to guide you through your practice this morning. Thank you so much for being here today with me. Namaste.